Welcome back to the 12th man, one and all. Of course, this is the show where we look ahead to the weekend's biggest games and analyse all of the talking points around fantasy football. There is still time to join our Sky Sports Fantasy Football League. The pin is on screen now and the link is in the description. But let's go to the first big game. Super Sunday, 4 o'clock, Liverpool versus Arsenal. I am buzzing for this one. Pato, what's happening with Alexi though? Is he playing or not?
It looks like he will be ready to play. He's come back from an abdominal strain, which is also known as wanting to join Man City. Now, I kept him out of my team for the first couple of weeks because he wasn't going to play, and I put Lukaku in instead, and I'm still doing terribly, so good news there. But look, Arsenal's attack has actually been pretty decent so far, but Welbeck has been a bit of a weak link.
Terrible.
You've got that 3-4-3, and there are two spaces there behind Lacazette, and you thought that Alexis would fit into that perfectly. Arsenal have so far outshot the teams they've played 45-17, 16 shots on target to 6, and yet they've scored 4 and conceded 4. So they could really use Alexis to come in just to make that even more powerful on the front end. I think that the way Lacazette moves will give him lots of space. I think that he's going to probably do pretty damn well this season, but I'm just not sure whether he'll do it against Liverpool.
Really? I'm not too sure about Alexis Sanchez starting this one. I think it might be a bit too early for him to come back. It's a big game as well, isn't it, to throw Alexis Sanchez straight into the mix against.
Yep. Although he has a history with playing when injured, so
yeah, he loves it. It's pretty much his favourite thing. But then again, last time we went away to Liverpool, he started on the bench that one, so perhaps we'll see him for the second half.
What about Giroud? Do you know, no shout in this game?
Giroud's got, I think, 3 and 5 against Liverpool. Yeah. He does seem to do well against them, and I do think their centre-backs can be bullied.
Exactly what I'm thinking, especially from corners and set pieces, they're so weak.
But in a way, I like having Giroud as an option off the bench. He's been fantastic when he's come on off the bench. Last season, it meant that he produced 0.9 goals plus assists per 90 minutes.
So impressive.
That's an awful lot for a player who's much maligned.
Best in the league,
So I really think that if I were Arsene, I'd maybe think about starting Alexis on the bench, but Giroud, I think, will come on later.
What about the defence, though?
Yeah, as you just highlighted, on the subject of dodgy defences, these pair haven't got off to the greatest start at the beginning of the season. They've conceded a combined 7 goals in their first 2 league games. And of the top 6 last season, Arsenal and Liverpool conceded 44 and 42 respectively. Now, Klopp did make changes against Palace and they kept a clean sheet, didn't they? Much to my chagrin. Lovren came out, who's in my side. Moreno came out and Klavan and Robertson came in. Now, Robertson looks an interesting prospect. Obviously picked him up for around 8 million from the relegated Hull. And last season, he looked good going forward. He created 0.6 chances per 90. Pretty impressive considering the calibre of player he was surrounded by. But as is slightly predictable, his defensive output wasn't great for a side that were relegated. Exactly. He was completed a combined 1.2 tackles and interceptions per 90. Arsenal too made a couple of changes against Stoke, didn't they, as well? Rob Holding not entirely convincing against Leicester, to say the least. So they brought in Mustafi, but didn't work out, did it? I mean, Stoke were fortunate on the day when you look at the statistics.
Well, they've got Koscielny to come back as well, haven't they? He'll make Mustafi better, you'd hope.
I mean, everyone in the Arsenal defence looks better playing next to Koscielny, who was instrumental last season, wasn't he? To keeping clean sheets and whatnot. Arsenal now have just kept 1 clean sheet in their last 9 away Premier League games, Pato. So odds are stacked against them in terms of coming out on top in this fixture.
It looks like it's going to be whose attack is better on the day, to be honest, because you'd have thought it's going to be some very porous defences.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know who's going to start up top for Liverpool, because obviously in the first game you saw the 3 up front against Watford, Salah, Mane and Firmino, but then against Palace, Klopp opted to drop Salah for Sturridge, which I thought was an odd decision, maybe more to do with the Champions League than it was to do with the Premier League. Obviously Salah playing full 90 minutes against Hoffenheim. But I think that Salah himself is far more of a creator. Sturridge at the weekend was drifting all over the place, left and on the right. You saw Mane coming through the middle. Firmino was out on the right at times, which is an interesting move, given that I see Sturridge as far more as just a finisher. Yeah. And Salah is far more of a creator. 3.4 chances created per 90 last season at Roma. I'm really surprised that he isn't starting every single minute of every single game, especially this early in the summer, this early in the season. Yeah,
he looked a little bit off the pace, didn't he, at the end of that Watford game. Although what you've highlighted an interesting contrast between someone who is losing pace and Daniel Sturridge, but not his ability to finish, and Mo Salah, who only put 1 shot on target against Watford, albeit it resulted in a goal.
But then you have to look at Sturridge. If he's not going to play as that mainline striker, does he create enough chances? 0.4 chances created throughout his career is about the high. So I'm not convinced he's got much else in his locker other than being an out-and-out finisher. I think Salah, on the other hand, is far better at drifting on the right, moving inside, being a little bit more fluid with Mane on the left, who also likes to come inside, doesn't he? I think that Klopp has to start Salah in this game. What do you boys think? Over Sturridge.
It's difficult because on the one hand, like, Salah's major threat is his pace. And actually, in Arsenal's wing-backs now, they've got a lot of pace to counter that. They've got Bellerin and Oxlade-Chamberlain. So in a way, a little bit more craft might be something that you prefer. You might ask Salah to drift inside rather than try and run in behind a little bit.
Yeah,
Mane has that, for instance. Mane's got that intelligence. I was just going to say.
Yeah, I mean, Sturridge as well. Is he match fit? I'm not convinced. Watching him against Palace at the weekend, he definitely missed that extra yard of sharpness that used to make him so clinical. He had such an ability 1 or 2 seasons ago just to pop one touch to the left and then bang, and it was in the bottom corner. That was part of his genius, and I just wonder whether he slightly lost that with his injuries. 6 injuries since the start of 16-17 season, which is an awful lot, and he's really struggled to build up any momentum.
Klopp asks an awful lot from his front 3, doesn't he? So we might see a certain degree of rotation this season. This might just be one of many changes.
I think he's going to have to. I mean, 700 minutes played last season for Sturridge is not enough for a player of his calibre. So I think rotation is key, keeping him fit is key. But what do you guys think at home? Who is going to win the big Super Sunday game? Liverpool or Arsenal? Vote in the poll above Pato's head there.
Next up on our radar, boys, is United versus Leicester at Old Trafford. And I know the talking point among Man United fans at least is, do you start Martial or do you start Rashford on that left-hand side? Now, we put out a poll and 81% of our audience, that's you, said Martial. Now, that isn't surprising when you look at his figures at the start of the season. Martial's completed 2 goals and an assist already in 22 minutes of football.
That's
just
a joke.
22 minutes in comparison to Rashford's 1 assist. Now, he's been just frightening in front of goal, whereas Rashford, not as convincing, especially in the one-on-one scenario where he's missed 3 clear-cut chances. However, we're dealing with a manager in Jose Mourinho who doesn't often change a winning formula, does he? We look at his Chelsea teams of yesteryear, Joe's new favourite word, and especially that team that won him the title most recently, Diego Costa, permanent feature, Cahill, Fabregas,
Terry.
He builds that trust, doesn't he, with his starting 11, particularly in the league, and then gives opportunities to other people in cup competitions.
100%.
However, Rashford's relentless running is an absolute weapon,
Well, it tires out that fullback for Martial.
He's completing 3.5 dribbles per game. So by the time Martial comes on, the fullback's already
I mean, Zabaleta against West Ham, his legs were basically falling off.
Martial had him twisted in knots, didn't he?
He's an old man at this point. Martial to me is
more respectful of a season pro.
Much more rounded attacker than Rashford. I mean, Rashford's got abilities. He's very strong. He's fast. That's about it. I think Martial is also a great dribbler as well as being extremely quick. He can create too. And he's fantastic at cutting in off that left.
But the one thing I would say from a Man United fan's point of view is that the big bonus between having Rashford over Martial is his work with Lukaku. So far this season is very, very good. He opens a lot of space for Lukaku from that run wide, whereas Martial always likes to come in and that actually cuts out a lot of Lukaku's space. And when Rashford does cut in, Lukaku's actually got some sort of understanding with him where he runs across him and Rashford comes in. You saw it for the West Ham first goal for Lukaku when he came in, little ball inside to Lukaku and a goal. Martial and Lukaku haven't quite got that understanding yet, but I'm sure it's going to develop over the next few weeks.
I mean, that's a job for him.
I do think Leicester's defence is going to prove to be a sterner opposition than the likes of Swansea and West Ham, who have looked permeable, to say the least. Although Leicester not entirely convincing as a defensive unit against Arsenal. They had good moments. Harry Maguire had good moments. Christian Fuchs's throw-ins caused all sorts of havoc amongst the opposition. Danny Simpson, again, he's okay if the team's nice and compact and the wingers are getting back. Morris provided more cover than he was doing last season at various points against Arsenal, but Man United's defence have looked pretty convincing too. The likes of Phil Jones really stepping up his game.
They have. Phil Jones has obviously been phenomenal. However, we do still have a little bit of issue. It seems to be an epidemic amongst the top 6 of set plays being very vulnerable from, and crosses. We against Swansea, there was a couple of times when Tammy Abraham had far too much room in the box. Luckily for United, he couldn't finish a packet of crisps on the day. But you look at the statistics, United have conceded just 1 shot on target in the first 2 league games. That is really,
very
really
Chelsea-like of last season.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you look at Eric Bailly and Phil Jones, and they are actually starting to build a little bit of a partnership. We weren't too sure whether Victor Lindelof would start immediately in this team. Victor Lindelof is now struggling to get a game because Phil Jones has started the season so well. You look at him picking up the Man of the Match award against Swansea. Some of his stats were outrageous. 5 tackles and interceptions, 7 clearances in that game. Really overshadowing Eric Bailly and valued at just £7.5 million as well on Sky Sports. A whole £2 million less than Eric Bailly.
Really?
He's well worth picking up at the moment because,
although
like
Eric
we said,
Bailly absolutely banged for me last week.
He did. Got his goal. He got his goal. But Phil Jones, if he's going to start week in, week out, and like we've already said, Mourinho doesn't often change a winning formula.
Yep.
He could be one of the bargains of the season at £7.5 million. I'd have a serious consideration of it.
And not bad competition for places when you've got Lindelof and
Smalling in there as well. Marcos Rojo still to come back as well.
Still think you could do with a fullback, dependent on Shaw's form when he comes back.
Yeah, dependent on Shaw's form. But Leicester do have some frightening attacking options.
But this is the thing, like what you've said, I think it's difficult, Leicester, to know what they should do with their attack because obviously Man United are going to stay in that Mourinho deep block and they're very, very good in it for the most part.
Brilliant on the counter as well.
I'm not sure that Leicester necessarily have the right weapon to unpick it at the moment. Jamie Vardy, of course, has been struggling with this nerve injury in his foot after the game against Brighton. And I'm not sure that he's the guy you'd want against a defence that's going to sit deep. There's going to be very little space to run in behind.
True.
I think that they'd probably be better off going for IHEANACHO in this game, though of course he's yet to start for the club. He's more of a creator. He also likes to come deep. He'll move around a bit more, and that might draw out Bailly and Phil Jones. I
also think Okazaki's link-up player is underrated. I think Okazaki could still work perfectly well with the likes of IHEANACHO. He loves a striker who's ahead of him, who's going to play off him. So IHEANACHO coming in for Vardy is a decent situation for Craig Shakespeare.
What about IHEANACHO and Vardy up top? No? Well, that's just a flat no.
No, I kind of agree with Chris. I think Okazaki is quite a good option for the second striker in this game. Matic has been really influential in the first couple of games. So what I think about doing is using Okazaki the way that Alex Ferguson used to use Danny Welbeck or Park Ji-sung. He'd say, we're going to sit you on the deepest midfield and we're going to prevent them getting their game going. So what we're going to do is park Okazaki on Nemanja Matic and just make his life a misery. Because Matic, whilst he's a very good player, he's also 28, he's not the fastest. You know, Okazaki can be a problem.
I think Ndidi can do that job too.
Yeah.
Whilst he sits quite deep normally for Leicester, he has got some engine on him and he could man-mark any player, probably in that Manchester United side, and do a decent job of it.
I think his biggest problem though, Ndidi, is he has to be extremely wary of Paul Pogba's runs because Paul Pogba in the first few games, his ability to pick the ball up, Matic intercepts it, gives it to Pogba. Pogba is driving our entire team forward with his runs from midfield. Yeah. He's galloping, gaining 30 yards, and then his technique and vision is so good that if you give him 10 yards of space, he will pick players out. We saw the floated ball over to Juan Mata against West Ham. Very unlucky that didn't result in the game.
And Mkhitaryan's going to drop deep as well and join the midfield. I mean, he obviously tracks back. I think he was averaging something like 2.5 tackles and interceptions in that last season at Dortmund, working really hard in defence. And he is actually the second most creative player in the league at the moment.
4 assists, right?
He's created 9 chances as well.
Wow.
And the only person above him is Ozil at the moment who's created 10 chances. So you'd have thought that Mkhitaryan against this defence where Arsenal created a lot of chances, I think that he could have a field day.
Yeah, 100%. But again, who do you think is going to win? It's a big one for you to call. Man United or Leicester City? There's only one winner here, but who do you think? Vote
Leicester
in the poll.
City, right
United.
Some hot blue on blue action brings our previews to a close this week. We've got Chelsea versus Everton, defence versus more defence.
Yes.
And you're going to talk about a defender, are you not?
Yeah, I am. I'm going to talk about Andreas Christensen. Now,
why is that? It's
a bit risky because I'm not actually going to bring him into my team. But if you're struggling for defenders, it's well worth a thought. £6.4 million, a snip, some would say. And he was phenomenal against Tottenham Hotspur.
Yeah.
He was so good up against Harry Kane. 100% pass accuracy, 9 clearances, 3 tackles and interceptions. He was arguably man of the match if David Luiz wasn't so good and Marcos Alonso didn't score 2. I thought for such a young man, it was such a composed performance. Obviously, he's had a good couple of seasons out on loan at Borussia Mönchengladbach where he has really, really impressed. But I think he could keep a clean sheet here. Everton, I don't think have scored against Chelsea in their last 2 Premier League games. So if you go by form, Chelsea should be winning this one. It's a bit of a risk. It is a bit of a risk because David Luiz probably going to drop back into centre-half, you think, now that Cesc Fabregas's ban is up. Because obviously he only got 2 yellows, so it's just a one-match ban. He'll come back into midfield and then probably David Luiz back into centre-half.
Yeah.
But then, if you're Antonio Conte, do you drop Christensen or Rudiger? I thought Rudiger was bang average against Tottenham Hotspur. The amount of times he got turned by Harry Kane, I thought Christensen was the superior performer, but then Rudiger maybe slightly more reliable across the course of the season.
I'd imagine he persists with Rudiger.
What do you boys think, Christensen or Rudiger?
I mean, I'd go for Christensen
I
because
would
he's
as
younger
well.
and I think he's got a higher ceiling. But what I do is not what Conte would do.
Yeah.
100%.
I imagine, having forced the issue with the Chelsea board, that he'd persist with Rudiger for now.
Yeah, sure.
But Christensen's a great option, isn't he?
What do you think of Bakayoko then? When he
I was extremely impressed with him.
Really?
I know you didn't particularly rate his performance,
No.
but you've got to remember this guy's at about 5% fitness. He's
True.
come in
Yeah.
at the expense of his own sort of output to put in a shift for the team, hasn't he?
Yeah.
He's done Conte a huge favour there.
Well, yeah, I mean, the thing is, he will obviously be fitter. The question is, how is Conte going to approach this game? Does he fear Everton's attack as much as he fears
Shouldn't
Spurs?
do.
Probably not.
Yeah.
In that case, he might be willing to start Bakayoko because obviously in this game he was like, right, well, we're going to just have a full 3-man midfield and we're just going to muddy up the whole game.
Yeah.
Like you said, I think Luiz is going to drop back. And then the question is Bakayoko or Fabregas. Now, Bakayoko didn't get a huge number of tackles and interceptions in the last game.
Not good for points on Sky.
Well, exactly. So you're not going to get a lot of points out of him. But of course, that number might go up if there are only 2 guys in midfield rather than 3 guys to share the defensive work. I don't know. I mean, I think that for the money, it's not necessarily the greatest move in the world. He's 8.7 mil.
It's a lot of money.
Well, for 0.7
Especially
mil
when he
more,
doesn't
you can
score or
get Mo
get many
Salah.
assists.
That's
Yeah,
the thing.
ridiculous then.
When you look at who you can get instead, that's when it starts to look not great. I know that you have been singing the praises of Aaron Moy at Huddersfield. And when you see that that guy is 7.5 mil, then you kind of say, I'm not sure it's worth taking this gamble on Bakayoko. Maybe in a few weeks.
Agreed.
Maybe in a few weeks, but for the time being, I'm not really sure what Conte's plan is for the season overall. So.
Yeah, I
Especially
agree.
given Everton's last performance away from home, which was against Manchester
Really
City,
good.
where defensive rear guard, fine, but they were against 10 men too, let's not forget, and they were heavily reliant on the likes of Holgate or Calvert-Lewin running it out of defence,
Yeah.
Yep.
penning themselves into a corner
Agreed.
and waiting for a midfield backup in the likes of, Sigurdsson or
Rooney.
Wayne Rooney.
Yeah.
And on
Yeah.
the subject of Wayne Rooney, he's proved himself a little bit of a bargain at the start of this season, hasn't he? He's got 2 goals in 2 games against Manchester City and Stoke, and he's only 10.4 million on a fantasy
It's
football.
not bad. He's raking in the points though.
It's quite steep.
I mean, given his all-round game, it would be a gamble to bring him in. I think against Stoke he had 1 shot, 1 goal, and against Manchester City it was similar figures.
Yeah,
He might
it
have
was.
had 2 or 3. That escapes me at the moment. Yes, he's the highest scoring striker on fantasy football so far
More
with
than Lukaku.
23 points. Now what you are going to get with him is maybe bonus points for tackles or interceptions because he has a very decent defensive output, doesn't he? When he's a little bit more reserved, he's kind of sitting in front of the midfield and letting other people play off him like Sandro Ramirez. I'm not sure if he's back for this game or not.
Sandro, he's doubtful. He's had a
Yeah,
he's had a bit of a heel
he is
problem.
doubtful.
But
But
Sigurdsson might be in there.
Sigurdsson
Yeah.
might play.
And that will help.
He might
because
play in
when
that 10, yeah.
Well, also, when you think that Rooney quite often is out taking the set pieces, it'll be better if he's in the box where he can use his aerial threat with Sigurdsson's delivery.
Yeah.
That's a good shout.
I mean, but in comparison, lads, Lukaku's got 3 goals, only has 19 points. So
Yeah,
Wayne
so he's
Rooney
not a bad option then, is he?
picking up surprise points here, there and everywhere. Chelsea, not his greatest foe. He's only got 6 in 24 against them. So we've seen very impressive records against the likes of Manchester City, but against Chelsea, he always seems to struggle. Now, Pickford, another bargain at 6.8 million. He's picked up
Got to get him
13
in.
points overall, despite conceding that goal against Manchester City because of the amount of saves he made. Now, as you said, do you risk bringing in Gylfi Sigurdsson, who's likely to make his debut away from home against Chelsea? I'm not entirely sure. Everton do look like a side that are going to be reliant on set pieces this season. They've got a few big men who can come in from the back, haven't they? In the likes of
Gylfi,
Ashley
Michael
Williams.
Keane, bang.
Yeah, Michael Keane. Do you know Michael Keane was one of Burnley's best, most decisive passers last season?
Yeah.
Just
Doesn't surprise
pumping the ball into very advanced positions. But yeah, Gylfi averaging 0.6 goals and assists per 90 last season and creating 1.5 chances. So when he finds his feet at Everton, well worth a punt in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. Although it's all from set pieces, isn't it? So you've got to guarantee Gil if he takes set pieces.
But who are you guys bringing in for the coming weeks? Let us know in the comments below.
This brings us nicely to our fantasy football section. We're going to answer some of your guys' questions at home. You guys have been sending them in all week using the hashtag SkySportsFF. You can do it next week as well when we'll be live on our Facebook channel. Oh, and of course,
a little bit nerve-wracking last week.
Yeah, it was. It was. You can still join our Fantasy Football League as well. The pin is on screen now and the link is in the description. And there's £5,000 to be won each week. But let's go to the first question from James Topper.
Go on.
Is it time to bring in Paul Pogba? How will he do for the rest of the season?
Well, he's started so well, hasn't he?
Yeah.
2 goals and 2 assists in 2 games for United this season. He's the top scoring midfielder on the Sky's fantasy football in terms of points. He got 17 against Swansea alone.
That's a joke.
But he does cost 11.2 million. So it will be to the detriment of your forward line, I imagine.
Yeah.
I've got Harry Kane and Romelu Lukaku. I couldn't afford Paul Pogba.
But would you bring in Pogba or would you prefer to have like a more attacking number 10 midfielder?
I think Pogba's got it all, hasn't he, Pat?
Yeah, I don't think it really matters that much with Pogba. Like,
All
because
action.
when you've got a 3-man midfield and you don't play with a number 10, it doesn't really matter that much. Pogba is going to create chances. More importantly, he's going to get tackles and interceptions every single game.
Yeah.
You're going to get points on the board constantly. And as we've said multiple times in this episode, look, Jose Mourinho will stick with a settled 11. Pogba's going to play every game he's fit.
Yeah, he 100% will play every single
And he
game.
could have had another goal if
He
he's
could
got that
have.
header.
And you look at
He's a jewel in the crown.
you look at what Matic has offered to that Man United team. It's completely freed Paul Pogba up. His runs from deep are so impressive now. He only got 1 assist last season, Paul Pogba, I think, in the Premier League. So I think he's already doubled that, which is a real shocker because I thought Paul Pogba last season was creating a lot of chances. Yeah, I think he genuinely got 1 assist
He
last
did
season.
create a lot of chances. I mean, I thought that he got really unfairly criticised last season for the fact that nobody could finish the chances he created. United went through a period, basically the other day, United put up an incredibly impressive performance against Swansea, okay, where they were hugely on top. Last season, they did that 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, it's been
and then
coming
ended
for a while,
in a draw.
right?
Yeah,
they did it against
100%.
Stoke when they drew 1-1, for instance.
What
They did
about
it against Burnley when they drew
the
0-0.
Burnley game,
Yeah, exactly.
32 shots or something.
And so this season they're going in finally. And Pogba finally is kind of a worthwhile pick in your
I really
fantasy.
think it goes understated as well about how much United seem to be a team with so much confidence and team morale at the moment. I mean, the little, I don't want to call them cliques, but the little groups of players, you look at Lukaku, Pogba, Martial, they are literally like best friends on the training pitch. And you can tell on the actual game, their link-up play is incredible. Martial coming inside with Lukaku, Lukaku setting the ball off to Pogba, bringing him in. You saw, I think, for the 4th goal, it was Martial's goal when Lukaku laid it off to Martial. Martial carried it in, Pogba 1-2 goal. Such a clean bit of play. And the team spirit at United seems to be so high at the moment.
Yeah.
They're not fearless at all.
Yeah, that's always going to help. But as Pato said, last season, he was the top central midfielder in Europe's top 5 leagues when it came to creating goal-scoring opportunities. Ibra's conversion rate was just a little bit low, wasn't
Very
it?
low.
Whereas Lukaku was around 23% for Everton. And this is the fruition of it.
Yeah, 100%.
Bringing them 2 together. You know,
Buzzing.
Bezzy.
Absolutely
Let's
buzzing.
move on anyway. Enough Man United chat. The next question is from Muhammad Ali, the one and only. And he's asked, when will it be a good time to bring in Coutinho? Now, interestingly, I believe you've just done that.
I have done that, and I've risked
Gamble.
it. I've risked it. I'm probably 2 weeks too early, I think. I'm probably a little bit too early. Obviously, he's been out with a back strain, also known as wanting to join Barcelona, but he looks like he's going to stay now. I think Barcelona have ended their interest, £120 million bids being turned down. I don't think Barcelona are going to pay more than that, and I think Liverpool and the FSG have made a very clear statement here and said, we are not selling our best players, and Coutinho is one of their best players. I have brought him in because I think Liverpool miss a very clear link between midfield and attack, and I think Coutinho is obviously the man that provides that.
I do agree with that.
He does cost more than Paul Pogba, though, 11.3
Well, this is what I was going to say. I mean, the thing is with Coutinho, yeah, you're a little bit late. You may as now wait until the end of the transfer window
True.
just to be sure he's going to stay,
Yeah.
because the time to get him really would have been when everyone thought he was going to leave and his price might have been dropping. The issue is that now, I don't know if he's going to play against Arsenal. Even if he does, Arsenal's defence isn't great, but it's still going to be a tougher
Pretty
game
strong,
than
yeah.
some of the others. So you might as well wait until after the international break and then see about picking him up. If you do, You've got a guy who got 13 goals and 7 assists in the league last season. You know, he's a fantastic creator, great goal scoring threat. He's going to take set pieces as well.
True.
But yeah, at the moment, I'd probably pick Pogba over Coutinho.
Really, it is very close for me though. Very, very close between the two. I think Coutinho offers slightly more in the way of goal-scoring threat from midfield, which is why I've selected him over Pogba. But who would you guys go for at home, Coutinho or Pogba in your fantasy football league? Vote in the poll up there now.
Or Aaron Moy.
No.
Our final question comes from Greg Zag. Your parents have done you over there. And he says,
Zig.
should I drop Harry Kane, given his record in August and given his problems at Wembley? I mean, I'm going to go straight in and say, no, of course you don't.
Yeah,
drop Harry
100%.
Kane. He's taken more shots than anybody in the league. He's getting chances. He's hit the woodwork twice. He's going to score goals.
But what about the Wembley issue? It is an issue.
What Wembley issue?
It is a bit of a psychological problem there.
Oh.
Is it?
Yeah,
I think,
100%.
I think
Huge
they'll
numbers of
overcome that
chances.
with aplomb against Burnley.
They're going to have to, because if they lose to Burnley, then it really becomes a problem.
Burnley
Yeah, of
were
course, but they're not
extremely fortunate to stay up last season, and I think teams have figured out that they just pump balls along from their centre-backs, as I said earlier, Michael Keane being their most decisive passer.
Yeah.
I had a look at Jeff Hendrick's stats ahead of this, and the guy only passes sideways. 24% of his balls, when he's in the opposition half, go forward. Only 24%.
24,
and
wow.
he's one of their chief playmakers. This is a guy they brought in to carry the ball. I think Burnley, an exceptional win against the odds.
Could they do it again
against
here?
Chelsea?
Against
but you
Spurs?
look at the chances they took against Chelsea. Ward strike, incredible. Sam Vokes' little flick. Okay, how many times is that going out of 10? I think Burnley are going to struggle this season unless they come up with a plan B. For me, Tottenham, this is a walk in the park.
Yeah, 100%.
Couldn't be eating my words.
And you've got to be keeping Kane in your team. He gets exponentially better through September as well. I saw a graph today on Sky Sports where his goals literally go like that through the season, and you see Lukaku's going up and down like this, whereas Kane, after he gets going, is so consistent. He just gets better and better and better.
Didn't he miss 3 months last season?
Yeah,
3
he did,
months,
yeah.
And he's
He's still one of the top
Exactly.
scoring players.
Exactly.
In the
So
whole thing.
don't get rid of Harry Kane just yet. He's going to score against Burnley.
even when he gets long-term injuries,
Really?
don't get rid of him.
I'm pretty certain that Harry Kane
Gets
scores
over
against Burnley.
How intriguing.
Are you sure?
There you
Let
go.
us know in the comments below.
Just before we go, let's mention last week's Team of the Week in Football Daily's league. And it is Gashbag United. That's Timmy Troughton's team.
Not
What's
sure
the
about
name?
the name.
Timmy Troughton.
Troughton.
Either name.
132 points. If you want to shout out next week and to win a Premier League shirt of your choice, make sure you enter the league, and the highest
That's
amount
almost-
of points wins.
That's almost triple my haul.
That's outrageously high. Let's have a
It
quick
is
look at his team. Who wants to talk about his defence? Because it's insane.
Well, yeah, clearly he's gone for people who are extremely threatening
Yeah.
from set pieces, indirectly and directly. Alonso, great choice on free kicks. We saw last season, even before he took this free kick, he scored a banger against Bournemouth, didn't he?
Yeah.
Harry Maguire, even for Hull, when they're on the way down, looked exceptionally threatening from set pieces. The guy is built like the abominable snowman.
True,
Yeah.
huge
Looks
head.
like
He's an absolute blockhead. And Eric Bailly, as I said, got a goal against Swansea.
Tapping.
Very athletic, loves joining the attack. Although I did see that tweet that you retweeted where he misses the ball
I know.
from about 10 yards out and then just lies
And
on the
then just
ground in
lays on the
despair.
floor. It is
So a
funny.
hilarious character too. Well done.
Yeah,
mate.
well done, Eric. Midfield patter.
The midfield's a bit more of a trade-off, isn't it? I mean, I love that he's managed to find space for Eriksen and Pogba. Aaron Moy's a good cheap pickup as well. But then he's basically got two guys who are
Ince,
just like
Goodmanson.
faceless men.
Yeah.
You know, like they've got. I have no idea who they are. They're just blokes who are
Oh,
there.
I thought that was Tom Ince.
No.
Our Ince.
That's
No.
our Ince, who plays for Brighton. Can't tell you his first name because I don't know it.
Yeah.
But basically what he's done there is said, I'm going to have these hyper-powered players everywhere else in my team, and the way I'm going to manage it is by having two,
Offsetting it.
you know, somebody's cousin in my
But
team.
then equally, he's picked up 132 points, and Harry Kane is still yet to score in his team.
And Harry Kane's his captain.
And
yeah, but
Harry
he's also
Kane's
got,
only got
he
double
also
points
got
for
4
Harry
goals
Kane.
out of his defence.
It's
this week.
incredible, and
I mean, come on.
he's got Chicharito up front. Now, I have
Okay.
bashed Chicharito most of pre-season, but I have to say, he did look impressive against Southampton. Very much a poacher's finish,
Yeah,
his second goal
you'd
in
hope
particular.
so for 140k a week.
Yeah, you really would. But Timmy Troughton, the best name I've heard this week, and the best team this week. Congratulations. There's your shout out. Like I said at the start though, if you want to be involved next week, join our league. The highest points wins a Premier League shirt of your choice. And if you do even better than that, you can win So that's all we've got time for on today's episode of The 12th Man. But before we go, Pato, one pick for the weekend. Who are you going to go for?
Henrik Mkhitaryan.
Ooh la la, that's a bit tasty. Tasty. Who's in our league, by the way?
All their Stat Wars favourites, mate. The likes of Max Rushton, we've got Statman Dave in there as well. Gary Neville. How did your team fare against G Nevs?
The best thing is Gary Neville's entire team is made up of Man United players and ex-Manchester United players. Now that is a true Red Devil. But anyway, thanks so much for watching and we'll catch you later. Sayonara.